Are you a home buyer that's been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the perfect time to hop into the real estate market and buy your first house? Well, I've got some good news for you. I think 2023 is going to be your year, so make sure you stay to the very end of this video. I'm going to give you a few reasons why I think 2023 is going to be a good time to buy. So let's hop into the video. The first thing that I want to share with you is that Lawrence Yun, the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, had recently come out with a statement that he predicts that housing values are going to actually increase 1% next year. Now, you might say 1%, that's nothing. But remember where the market was over the last couple of years. The market was appreciating at double-digit increases over the last several years. In some parts of the country, we've seen 10, if not 15%, sometimes even 20% in certain markets. So to see that we're going to only see a 1% increase, that's actually a good thing because things aren't going as crazy as what we've seen. Now, why is that a good thing for a buyer? Because one, you don't have to worry about the market getting out of reach. Now, you still might say that, well, Sean, the market is out of reach because of what happened over 2020 and 2021. You're right. However, we are starting to see some price corrections and some adjustments across the country to where those prices are starting to come down. I've been actually stopping by a few new build communities locally here in Las Vegas, and I've actually talked to those developers and they've been reducing their prices as well. So for those of you that have been on the sidelines and maybe you were priced out of the market, this is why 2023 is going to be a great time for you, because if we start to see some more of this softening as far as prices go, that will work to your favor, because maybe you were priced out of the market and you couldn't afford the extra $50,000, $75,000 in increases in values over the last few years. That forced you to rent. So if we have basically a flat sort of appreciation next year, that's a good thing for all of you buyers. And another thing home buyers can get excited about is that we actually saw a tad of a decrease in inflation the last report that was announced. Now, I know it's nowhere near where the government wants us to be or even where you and I want the inflation number to be at. However, that slight decrease actually dropped mortgage rates about 1%. This was such good news for all of us in the real estate industry, because we literally went from like a 7.5% interest rate down to about 6.5%. So some of these other strategies that we talk about, like a temporary buy down, which is a 2-1 buy down, that can get your interest rate in the first year of your mortgage down into the 4s. So the cool thing about how a 2-1 buy down works is that you get a 2% interest rate reduction in year 1 of your mortgage, and it's a 1% reduction in year 2. So for example, let's say today, if interest rates are 6.5%, year 1, your interest rate would be 4.5%. Year 2, it would be 5.5%. And then years 3 through 30, you'd be capped at 6.5%. Now, of course, there's other ways that you can buy your interest rate down. And like I mentioned, as I've been talking to some of these new home builders, they're even throwing in incentives to get buyers off the fence. I think we're starting to see even more of a shift to where sellers and builders are being way more amicable and way more negotiable than what they were in the last 2 years. Because I remember even looking at a new build for myself. When I went to the new build track, the guy basically told me, he's like, you need to get qualified first, and then your name sits on a list, and wouldn't even tell me how long the list was. There was actually another builder that I had put my name down to be on a wait list, and I can tell you we're 2 years past that point and they still haven't called my name. Whether they just skipped over my name or not, but I was never even called. But now they're looking to give you incentives. They're looking to give you a lower interest rate. They want to throw in the kitchen sink to get you off the fence. So this is why it's super important that if you're a buyer, I've been talking about this in some of my other videos, where you want to start creating a plan. So if 2023 is the goal, start talking to a lender now, because you want to put a game plan together to figure out where you exactly stand. Whether you need to fix your credit, whether you need to show more income on your tax returns or take less write-offs. Those are some of the things a good loan officer is going to give you advice on, so that way you can put yourself in the best position possible to take advantage of the opportunities that will be coming next year. Now, some of you may say, well, we're headed into a recession and things are going to get worse and everyone's going to start losing their jobs and the market's going to go down the toilet. Well, check out this slide. You can see over the last 50 years, every single time that we've headed into a recession, mortgage rates have actually gotten better. For those of you that have these knee-jerk reactions and like to regurgitate what the media tells you, you have to look at the data, especially during these times of hardship. So let's just say we do head into a recession. Interest rates, again, over the last 50 years have gotten better every single time. So what does that mean as a buyer? That means that if rates go from 6.5% to 5.5% or 4.5%, I can reassure you of one thing. Every single buyer that's been on the sidelines, that's waiting for this, is going to come back into the market, and the multiple offer situations are going to come back because there's just not that many homes for sale in the market. Yes, it's ticked up since the summertime. However, it's still not going to be enough to fulfill the demand of all of you that have been waiting for that perfect time to come around that could potentially come around next year. So you've got to get yourself into a position to be ready and move fast. And here's another great slide that actually shows the Case-Shiller Housing Index since 1960. And again, you can see during every time that we've had a recession, home prices continue to go up. The one exception is 2008, which obviously we all know what happened. The banks flooded the market with inventory. Remember, housing prices are going to react off of supply and demand. The mistake that was made during the 2008 crash was the banks flooded the market with inventory. There were so many homes out there and not enough buyers. So of course, prices dropped. And again, if the banks didn't learn from their mistake, they would have foreclosed on a ton of people during COVID, and they would have kicked everybody out of their houses, and they would have foreclosed and had more inventory. However, they were smarter and they allowed forbearances. They allowed most people to live in their house mortgage-free for an entire year. All they did was throw those payments to the back of the loan, or maybe they refinanced, or maybe they came up with a loan modification. But the banks were smarter this time around. And this is why I do not think we are going to see this massive crash that so many of you are predicting, because we need supply to have a crash. You can't just create a crash out of thin air just because we want one. So if the builders aren't building fast enough, and if the builder sentiment isn't as positive as it is, they're going to restrict their inventory because they want to maximize their profits on as many homes as possible. There is no incentive for a builder to overdevelop just because they want to sell more houses. They will make you wait just like they did during COVID, so that way they can maximize the profit on every single house. Now, if interest rates drop, like again, if we head into a recession, there's so many talks of a lot of mortgage experts out there saying that we are going to see mortgage rates get better next year. And as we head into December, when the Fed meets again, if we see another touch of inflation heading in the right direction, I would imagine interest rates are going to get better again, just like we've seen here in November. So that takes us into January. And in my opinion, once you head into the new year, we get past the holidays, you start heading into tax season, you start getting your refunds, everyone's going to get off the sidelines and they're going to start looking at buying. So in the next couple of months, I think we have a few things to pay attention to. One, the next Fed meeting, where do the inflation numbers come in at? If they come in a little bit better, just like they did last month, I think interest rates will come down. And I think rolling into the new year, that's going to give all of you more confidence. If we start to see interest rates in the 5s again, you'll get off the fence, and now will be the perfect time for you to take advantage of this market. And if you don't know where to start, if you're a first-time home buyer, make sure to check my description. There's a link to an entire guide that will walk you through the process from start to finish and answer every single one of your questions. But if you are ready to get qualified and come up with your game plan and best strategy to become a homeowner, make sure to book a call with me, and I'd be happy to put that together so we can win together in 2023.